Look, I think Caitlin Clark is going to be even better at the end of the season. Just take a look at her arms. For heaven's sake. No, it's not just because she's still throwing logo 3 ES like they're layups. This time the talk is about her body. Clark went into the offseason with the intention of gaining muscle and becoming stronger so that she could return as a more explosive version of herself. Now that she's looking like a whole new beast, one guy is likely regretting his previous shade of UConn's Geno Auriemma. Diana said it best, this kid is in for a rude awakening. They all jumped over her, but they didn't read what she said, but no one is printing. When Geno couldn't resist downplaying Clark's ability to handle WNBA physicality, that smug little "we'll see if she can take the hits" routine. Yes, it's not aging, but it turns out that Caitlin wasn't just ready for the hits, she absorbed them, processed the data, and rebuilt herself into a monster. Geno Auriemma was correct. This kid is on the wrong team. She has the wrong skill set to handle the physicality of that league, and she is a rookie. If you're a WNBA player, you're going to say, I'm going to make a statement. Now let's talk about the journey. Clark's rookie season wasn't just amazing, it was a baptism by fire. In addition to scoring, she was being knocked down, shoved, hacked, and essentially treated like a human punching bag by defenders like Kennedy Carter, DJ Junie Carrington, and of course, Angel Reed. If you didn't know any better, you would think the league had a bounty out for her. It wasn't defense, it was a crash course in full contact basketball. Now there's a popular topic. Caitlin Clark claims she was cheap shot against the sky. She has been beaten up, elbows, hard screens, and knocked down throughout the season. But Clark has never cracked, never retaliated, and has just kept getting up. While some players spent the offseason relaxing, Clark went to the gym like it owed her money. Alright guys, we're starting a little TikTok weight room vlog. We're gonna show you what we do. Get the butt down. Okay, speed. Okay, Steve. Oh, she is strong. Alright guys, that's our lift. We are strong. Okay, we're actually strong. The result is a new bulked up version of the most dangerous player in the league. Her arms sculpted, her core steel, her presence on the court commanding. Looking at you, Geno, this is your official I was wrong moment. Caitlin Clark is one of the top and most famous basketball players in the world right now, and she worked really hard this past offseason to gain 8 pounds of muscle to give her an advantage on both the offensive and defensive ends of the court. It obviously paid off because she was able to play tougher on ball defense and finish around the rim better. As Stephanie White, her coach with Indiana Fever, has already noted, Clark isn't just more durable, she's a completely different athlete, now stronger, faster, and sharper. The only thing that people are talking about is how much bigger Caitlin Clark has gotten. Of course, if you look at the picture of her with Serena Williams, you can see that her arms seem a little bit bigger, but it's kind of hard to tell. Gone are the days when defenders could push her off her spots. Now she's the one making contact, posting up smaller guards, taking hits, finishing plays, and still launching logo bombs. But now she's doing it with defenders bouncing off her like foam pads. It's crazy, like watching a Marvel origin story unfold in real time. Imagine what happens when you give someone who was already the league's biggest problem strength, stamina, and confidence. We've seen it repeatedly this offseason, such as in photos of Caitlin Clark, how much she has bulked up, and it's a sign of someone who is clearly working her way towards being well. She's no longer the skinny guard who was said to be nowhere, not big enough. And let's not forget the poetic justice. Geno Auriemma, who hasn't coached a player of Clark's caliber in 10 years, had the gall to doubt her ability to keep up physically. In the meantime, you can't body her out of games anymore. You can't rough her up and expect her to fold. She's stronger, smarter, and still has that unshakable chip on her shoulder. The truth is that the stronger Caitlin gets, the more unstoppable her game becomes. Clark has become the literal blueprint for how to turn adversity into dominance. I hope he's enjoying the view from irrelevance, because he's running the league now. Geno baby. If Caitlin Clark is on the team, it becomes the right team, because Caitlin Clark is on it. She's moving through defenders like she's got a force field around her, and her passes are getting sharper and her cuts more explosive. This isn't just an off-season makeover. It's a declaration that Clark isn't here to play along, but to dominate. I have a basketball question for you though, because I know you work really hard during the off-season. You mentioned yesterday that you're always trying to get better, so what are you working on this off-season? I think honestly, aside from the basketball skill part of it, I think getting stronger, so I spend a lot of time in the weight room just building that strength. It was difficult to go from the college season to the professional season because you don't get to spend a lot of time in the gym. Weight room is what I've tried to focus on the most, and then obviously a lot of things on the court. I love it, I love getting to do it, and I feel very fortunate that it's my job. So if you're a defender considering getting physical with Caitlin Clark in 2025, good luck. She's not just bracing for the hits anymore, she's meeting you at the point of impact. And if Geno Auriemma is watching, he might want to start taking notes because Caitlin Clark didn't just react to the league's aggression, she took it, flipped it, and turned it into fuel. Now the WNBA is going to be held accountable, and more. Since Caitlin Clark is built like a soccer player, the entire WNBA just received a reality check. Her name is Caitlin Clark, and she's not returning as the same player. Instead, she's returning as if she hit a cheat code in the offseason. If anyone thought they had her figured out after last season, they're in for a very rude awakening. This isn't just a player getting ready for year 2, it's a complete evolution. Clark isn't interested in just having another strong season, she's on a mission to leave her mark alongside the greatest of all time. This transformation isn't your average "I worked out a little" story. Rather, it's the kind of offseason that legends are built on. Ironically though, I don't think it will affect the pace at which she plays because as you can see from watching her play, Caitlin Clark is much faster here than she is physically, and that's one of the things I don't think people really know. The big question is, can Clark bring this new power into real game action? The answer is already printed in bold letters. Yes, upgraded every aspect of her game. The Caitlin Clark that WNBA defenders bumped and bruised last year is no longer there. Instead, she is a tougher, meaner, and much more complete player that will give defenders nightmares. She has a natural build that makes her a long-distance runner, which is why there haven't been many injuries, and she has that elasticity that doesn't seem to be very common among WNBA players. For example, whether it was WNBA in college, she doesn't put a lot of force through her legs given how much speed she uses. There isn't much change of direction, she's just downhill at one speed last season. It was all about her speed and her limitless range. One of the most obvious changes in her post-up game is that Clark has been living in the paint this offseason, learning how to seal off defenders, absorb hits, and finish with strength. She's not just shrugging off contact, she's actively seeking it out. The league is frantically trying to adjust to the fact that the player who used to be hunted by physical defenders is now the one dishing it right back. And those jaw-dropping no assists that haven't gone anywhere have been replaced by her newfound physicality, which makes her a matchup disaster. 0 MVP is hers. Let's go, admin. I love you. Caitlin put some weight on, bro. She definitely got in the weight room. I think that's what's causing the biggest difference that we're seeing from her going into this upcoming season. Her body frame shows that her arms are bigger and her thighs are wider. She definitely put some muscle on. When she drives, she's not avoiding bumps or flailing for foul calls anymore. Instead, she's powering through defenders, finishing with both hands and converting those difficult layups she used to miss. Caitlin Clark was not the strongest player in the world in college. She wasn't weak by any means. But we saw that when it came to the WNBA, she was kind of unable to really assert herself physically. Her evolution also shows in her passing game, where the added strength means she's holding defenders on her hip longer, controlling space and forcing opponents to stop trying to frustrate her into bad shots or turnovers. Squeezing passes through narrower windows, she's creating angles that weren't even there before. Trapped by 2 defenders, but no problem, Clark powers through, threads the needle, and hits a shooter right in the pocket. This is where Clark truly sets herself apart from the others. Her improvement in one area isn't enough, she's fixing everything. Remember that workout clip that went viral on social media with millions of views in a single day? It wasn't just for show, it was a sneak peek at the storm to come. If you guys saw this workout, it has gotten a lot of people excited for Caitlin Clark because she is working on her weaknesses directly, which I think it's a good look for her because once more we're seeing someone working on their weaknesses, not the glamorous ones. Let's break it down. Last year, Clark led the league in turnovers due to intense double teams and defenders swarming her every possession. What is she doing to get better? She's sharpening her handle, making it lower, faster and more controlled, so that those defenders won't even have an opportunity to trap her this time around. Her mid-range game is another area where everyone knows Clark can launch it from the logo or finish at the rim. But what about that awkward in-between zone that defenders tried to funnel her into? Now that she's working on pull-ups and drilling floaters, there's no safe spot on the floor to give her space. Third, finishing through contact is huge. Clark has never shied away from going to the rim, but last year it meant taking hits, some clean, some not so much. This offseason she's taking that contact in practice training with resistance simulating game-like collisions, so she's not just surviving them, but finishing through them. After the Olympic break, Caitlin Clark isn't just evolving, she's leveling up into the most dangerous offensive threat the WNBA has seen in years. The worst part is that she's only in her sophomore season. If she's making these kinds of seismic improvements this early, what happens when she hits her prime? Clark has strengthened her game from top to bottom, making sure that when defenders come in with elbows, body checks, or slaps across the forearm, she's unfazed. She's back in her natural habitat, playing basketball in the lab. It must be a frightening sight for the rest of the WNBA if she gets even better. We're not just talking about a rising star, we might be witnessing the birth of one of the greatest players of all time. I would hope that bulking up has led to more injuries, but defenders who felt that the previous season was difficult are in for a rude awakening. Clark has reloaded, recharged, and reinvented herself, and this version of herself is faster, stronger, and 10 times more unpredictable. Coaches aren't just game planning for her anymore, they're praying for miracles, and this isn't just online chatter. Analysts are already placing her near the top of the MVP conversation. Caitlin Clark's transformation isn't just about putting up big numbers, it's about changing the game itself. She was already a scoring machine with logo range threes and no-look assists, but now she's bringing a physicality that makes her nearly impossible to contain. Think of it like upgrading a race car with tank armor. You're not just chasing speed, you're dealing with impact. The days of the teams tried to slow Clark down last season by hitting her, bumping her, and throwing bodies at her like they were playing rugby instead of basketball. But this season that playbook is useless because she's not absorbing hits anymore. Instead, she's dishing them out like flies. And defenders who used to throw elbows are getting bounced off like flies. The physical edge Clark has developed is forcing opponents to rethink every defensive strategy. For example, there were a few times you could see her arms and you thought, okay, she's gotten a lot bigger, and I do like the fact that by the end of the season she was taking people in the post. And that's the one thing I like about Caitlin Clark. Not that she has good post footwork, but she can kind of bump with her left shoulder and then shoot over her right, that kind of layup hook shot. But the biggest twist is that Clark is evolving into a defensive threat in her own right. She's not just hanging with quicker guards, she's muzzling through screens, sticking to her matchups, and making life miserable for opposing playmakers. The days of teams taking advantage of her on defense are over. She's becoming the kind of two-way player that's uncommon even in men's basketball. Her defensive strategy is out of date, and Clark has improved her lateral quickness, awareness, and most importantly, strength. She is holding her own in the post, jumping passing lanes, and refusing to be caught off guard. When she isn't shutting down opponents, she is converting defense into offense with lightning-fast transitions. I believe it is inevitable that Caitlin Clark will become the first player in the WNBA to average a double-double in points and assists, and at some point in her career, she will probably break the record for assists per game in a season. If you're wondering if all of this translates into jaw-dropping statistics, the league is talking about Clark could average 25 points and 15 assists per game, which is not only MVP material, but also historic. If she even sniffs those numbers, she will be the first WNBA player to average a double-double in points and assists over the course of a season. I believe it will be a situation where by game 10 she may not be the best player in the world, but we can't forget that last year, she just kept getting better and better. If there is a scenario where, for example, I don't think it's implausible to say Caitlin Clark could average 23 and 10 next year, and when she gets lucky, she's not just jumping out of the parking lot anymore. Caitlin Clark is becoming a complete offensive system in one player by bodying smaller defenders down low, using her added strength to muscle through contact, and finishing at the rim, or kicking out to an open shooter. The goal is not to be the best player in the world tomorrow, rather it should be to be the greatest player of all time. You don't have to be the best player in the world next year. Let's also talk about those fouls. Last year Clark was constantly hacked, and referees allowed a lot of it because she was smaller and defenders knew how to get away with physical play. This year, however, it's not so easy. That added muscle means every bump, elbow, and cheap shot. The goal should be to fully establish yourself in that conversation next year, and by year 3, make it so that the only argument against her being the best player in the world is in fact A'ja Wilson. The shot is much more obvious, which means more trips to the line, and when she's at the stripe, automatic. But here's the really crazy part. She's only just getting started in year 2. She's not just improving her game, she's setting a blueprint for the next generation of players. Her message is clear: if you're not evolving, you're getting left behind. Then by year 4 or 5, when Jugo begins to enter the league, when Guju enters, when Hidalgo enters, people say, oh, these are the comparisons. I mean, no one's going to have those comparisons. If at that point Caitlin Clark is coming off an MVP season and a title, and the entire WNBA is paying attention, you can feel the ripple effects. Players hitting the gym harder, coaches redrawing their defensive plans, fans clearing their schedules. Clark's transformation isn't just about one player's growth, it's changing the league dynamic. What can we expect from the upcoming season fireworks? We're going to witness one of the most explosive. This isn't just a season, it's a moment in time. So grab your snacks, find your favorite seat, and get ready, because Caitlin Clark is ready to put on a show like we've never seen before, and the rest of the WNBA is just hoping to survive the storm. Are you ready? Let us know in the comments, like and subscribe so you never miss it. Click the video on the screen, and we'll see you in the next one. Clark's new strength and sharpened skills will leave a trail of highlights and broken records in their wake.